one or two things are going to happen. You fail and wind up with a bullet in your head, or you succeed and wind up with a bullet in your head.
Thanks so much for doing this, Troy. Really
Thanks for
excited
having me,
to
man. I
talk to you.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So I guess I just want to start, and we're in the middle of the season, first season
Yeah,
of LA,
yeah.
and after episode 5, it feels like Ted and Kevin's dynamic is pretty central to what this show is and how it's forming. And so I just want to jump right in and kind of
Yeah.
ask you if you can share a little bit about how what it's been like stepping into Kevin and sort of seeing this dynamic and creating this dynamic so far.
Yeah. You know what? When we originally had the auditions, it's somewhat descriptive of what these characters are going to be like. You're not really going to find out until you show up on table read day and get into the nuts and bolts of what this character is going to be about. Listen, I've been pleasantly surprised that the audience is receiving Kevin. I've been pleasantly surprised on what the writers are writing. It's a big cast, and sometimes you don't have a lot of real estate to kind of delve into a lot of people's background. But they have seemed like they've taken the initiative to kind of, draw Kevin out a little bit. And listen, I love it. I love the direction that they're taking him in. I love what they're giving him to think about, you know what I mean? And the dynamic between Steven and I, listen, we're having a ball. I mean, every time we get on set, we're laughing. And it's just like I've known this dude for years, you know what I mean? And it's just like when we did the original, when we did the pilot in Canada, he was very reserved. So I was just like, oh, Jesus, okay, here we go. I thought it was going to be one of those, situations where it's just like, if the show's a hit, I got to put up with this. Like, oh my
Maybe it was just Canada, huh?
yeah, I'm like, come on, dude. This is like, let's live it up a little bit. You know what I mean? And
So what happened once you guys got back? What happened?
you know what's so funny is that after a couple of days, she started to loosen up, and I started to see the possibility of laughing with this guy. And I was just like, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Let's bring the heat. And he's very open, he's very giving, he's very observant, and it's cool as a person coming to work every day to be presented with that type of energy. Also, I mean, he pushes you to kind of like step up your game a little bit,
Huh.
and I love it because I love to be challenged. I've been doing this a long time, and
You are like you are a vet in a true sense, like of not just of TV and movies and all the talent you've worked with, but also just like what the procedural drama is and like this type of show, all the
yeah,
types of shows like this and you so I feel like when you talk about what's working or what you're seeing, like it comes from a real knowledge. And you what I want to ask a little more about though
yeah,
is
absolutely,
you talk about how much fun you guys are having. And
yeah,
there's no question the audience agrees because
yeah,
everything I'm seeing online and people like in commentary and critics, everything is that there's a joy and a fun between the dynamic you guys have. So
yeah.
what's the stew kind of between what's happening between the two of you and what the writers are saying? And like, why is it all like it all seems to like work, you know?
Listen, I think it's trial and error. You know what I mean? You throw something at the wall, and if it works, if it sticks, let's keep going with it. I think in the beginning it was just trying to find out where certain things lie, where people's strengths were. And I started out as comedy. That's where I started out from, but I love drama. You know what I mean? So I always had that kind of ace in my pocket, and anytime I can get the clown, I was a class clown in school. So that's how I got into this business. So anytime I could pull that card out and play with it a little bit, I love it. And like I said, when the cameras turn off, I mean, listen, you could be on fly on the wall, and it's just like, are you serious right now? These guys are having too much fun, and I think they see that,
Yeah. Yeah.
the off screen, and I think they see the camaraderie that we have, and just the playfulness and the joking around and stuff like that, and like I said, he's a very inviting dude. He'll sit down and have a cool conversation with you. You know what I mean? Especially when you're dealing with a show like this, people are older and life happens. You come in from different parts of life, and you come in and try to mesh it all together to make a product. You know what I mean? And not
Yeah.
everyone get
Yeah.
along. But luckily on this show, knock on wood, it's just been a wonderful gig, man. I can't complain.
Can
that
you
one.
talk a little bit about where it's taking the show, the concept of the show, because Suits is massive, was massively popular. This is
Absolutely.
connected in some ways, obvious ways, but like, your familiarity with the original and where you guys feel like you're taking things and like where Kevin's kind of going, you know?
It's I don't well, in the original they never had an investigator, you know what I
Right.
mean? I think at first they were supposed to, but somewhere down the line they chose to take it a different direction. My character, he really doesn't wear a suit, so he's free to kind of like, just be relaxed and give shit to everyone, especially Ted. At the same time, it's fun to kind of, you know, it's fun to kind of take an example from the OG show, but really trying to plant our own nest egg and map our own way.
Yeah.
The show is an extension, and I think a lot of hardcore fans are having a hard time to separate the two.
Yeah.
And and I get it. You know what I mean? When there was a show that was such a hit, a monster hit such as that, especially when it blew up on Netflix, there's going to be comparisons, and I get it. But like anything and everything, there's always expansions of. You have Law
Yeah.
and Order, Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like if they give us a shot to kind of like explore that kind of outline, I think we'll be in good shape. I think
Yeah.
we're in
And
shape now. It's finding its footing.
Kevin does, like you said, you said very well, he represents some of the differences, but he's also part of the private investigator he's a part of a lot of these kinds of shows, like that
Yeah,
figure. It factors into decision making and plot and like it creates a different type of character to have in the room, and I think
absolutely.
that opens up possibilities, especially with the relationship you guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's, you know what? I think Kevin loves to play the background and speaks up when it's needed. It's almost as like Kevin is Kevin will joke around with you in a minute, but Kevin lets you know the real business, whether you like it or not. And it's not coming from a disrespectful place. It's coming from a place that he's earned, that a place of trust. You know what I mean? Ted trusts Kevin and Kevin trusts Ted.
Yeah.
And that comes with history. And I think that our characters are conveying that to the audience, and it's fun playing something if you believe it. You know what I mean? If it's going to be difficult to work with, trust me, you're going to see it when it comes across the screen.
Yeah, and you say the trust. That's the other thing people talk about a lot is that the clearly the trust. How much about Kevin do you think about on your own and kind of flesh out in your mind that you're like, this is a character I'm coming into this series, and you've done so many things where you'll do 3 episodes, you'll do 1 episode, but this is
Yeah.
one where you're like, I probably like I imagine like coming up with a lot of stuff of who he is, who he was before, and how that informs him. Like, do you work with the writers and do you take some of it off in yourself and just be like, this is who I think this is what he's all about.
A little bit of both. Just recently, I think it was episode 7. I think it was episode 7 where it's revealed that Kevin lost his wife. You know what I mean? And then Lex's mom, she said that, he's going through a lot of hurt and stuff like that. And I think that it's a foreseeable future on where Kevin can go. And I love the ability and the freedom to give him life. One thing about the writers, they'll give you time to play. You know what I mean? They'll say, if you have a suggestion, it's like, listen, maybe if you thought about this line read instead of this line read, it'll give it different context. And hey, listen, Troy, feel free. Because I guess they trust and they see the process and they see how well Ted and I work together. That obviously we're going to say what's on paper, but at the same time, they're going to give us the freedom to play with it. And I love the ability for them to sit back and write some good TV for Kevin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear more about that in if you go back and look at your career, like you've been on TV
Mhm.
for a long time, and you've done
Absolutely.
all kinds of staffs, all kinds of shows. You've come in,
Yeah.
like I said, quick, and then you come in for long.
Right.
Uh, how much is it like you got to every time kind of feel it out? Like how much is me, how much is them, like and how much are you like they don't want me to change anything on this one, but on this one I
Oh,
can say whatever I
geez.
want or like I mean, you've worked with some
Listen,
of the great comedic talents of all time, some of the great dramatic
absolutely.
talents of all time. So I'm just kind of like curious to hear you talk a little bit about like all that like just the experiences you've racked up.
You know what? Okay. I just turned 55. I just turned 55. I made my 16th birthday on set of The Principal. So that kind of give you a sense of how long I've been doing this, right? So I've seen it. Listen, bruh, I've seen it all. I've seen it all.
I believe you.
So, I've worked with some, I had a chance to work with River Phoenix before he passed. I mean, that just kind of just give you a span of how
I
long I've
know it's crazy. Like I mean, John Denzel Washington, like just like these names that are just like holy.
exactly. So it's like, I sit back and I watch the greats. You know what I mean? I sit back and I take what I think that they would share and apply it. I had a chance to, sit and talk with Robert Deval for like 30 minutes while we're setting up stuff. You know what I mean? So just,
Wow.
having the opportunity, having the patience, having the endurance to withstand this business, and still and still be able to have these conversations with you and share it. I mean, it's just been great. You know what I mean? I'm still learning, this show has allowed me the ability to kind of like sit back, listen, play, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm an artist. I'll never stop learning. Earl Hyman, he played the father on Cosby. He gave me some good, history. It's just like, listen, you'll never stop learning. You learn on the set. You can learn in class all day. You get a chance to do it over. But when you have the pressures of the cameras and the lights and the timing and time itself, it adds a little pressure. So, you grow up on sets, and that's exactly what I did. You know what I mean?
A
The
lot of
business.
people don't grow up and keep like you're an exception in a way because a lot of times it burns people out fast and hard, you know?
And listen, I mean, at the same time, don't get me wrong now. I mean, I've been discouraged. This business is brutal as you know. You're up 1 minute and you're down the next, and you got to figure it out. But just having the patience and the endurance and the love of what you do is that'll take you miles above the rest. You know what I mean? And luckily, having people in your corner and encouraging you at times when you just feel low. And just having the ability to know that you're more than the no's that you get when you leave the audition room. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Especially the ones that you want, know that you could just blaze on screen and you don't
Yeah.
get, you know?
What are some because I'm sure there's many where you're like, man, that would have worked, that should have been. But what are some where you didn't necessarily know like like you didn't know if it was going to work or you didn't feel it, but it worked out. You got it, and it ended up being like. Are there some things where you went up for them and then you ended up getting them, and you're like, oh wow, that's kind of a surprise. Like
Uh,
because I'm sure there's a lot where you're like, I want that one, I should get it, but you don't.
Listen, I've had the ability early in my career, and I'll tell you this one. Um, I think I was maybe 15 or 16. I think it was 15 years old. And I had the ability to play a character who was um, autistic. And and it was for PBS. And it was a really, really good script. I mean, it was at that time that I knew of a good script.
Yeah.
It was a and I think it was up for something. I think it was a Universal film or something like that. So I wind up taking a Universal film. And I said to myself, I would never do that again because at that point it was a money grab, right?
Hmm.
Instead of being true to what I really wanted to be as an artist, as a thespian,
Yeah.
I started my career in plays. Joe Turner, a lot of August Wilson stuff. I came real close to getting one with James L. Jones, Courtney B. Vance.
Oh wow.
What was the name? Not Joe
Fences?
Turner.
Did he do fences?
Fences,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
with Fences. And I was so young. I think I was maybe 14 or 15 at the time.
Wow.
And here it is, one of the big arenas in New York, and I was on stage in the center of it, and here's James Earl Jones. And I'm like, oh Jesus, what am I gonna do? It's just like, you know what I mean? So I just choked up and was like, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I wound up seeing Courtney B. Vance, which he slayed it.
Yeah,
Uh,
but you learned, right? That's kind of what I'm hearing what you've talked about is like adapt, survive, like
Exactly. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That could have took me out right then and then. I could have been,
Yeah.
working someplace else. But yeah, it's not an easy business because I've seen friends come and go. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
just people like to live life. They like a security blanket, and I get it.
Yeah.
This business is not promised to you, but when you get a
Yeah.
chance to love to
But
do it.
nothing, but I mean, you've made something incredible, the tapestry of what you've done and all the things you've done. But it's really kind of cool that here we are now talking about
Mhm.
Suits LA. This is a
Yes.
big series and like a great role, and he's emerging. It feels a lot like, and wherever people want to know where he's going to go next because he's
Yeah.
emerged in this series.
Absolutely. The writers are surprising me with every script that comes out. So I'm like, oh, okay, I love the direction that they're taking me in. It's fun playing this guy. I mean, I honestly say that every time I get a script, and I'm not just sugarcoating it, I'm not just saying it. I enjoy going on set, smelling the wood, and being able to say the words that they put on paper for me. And when Steven and I are on set and when we're playing, it's just fun. Sometimes it's just like, listen, I got to pay bills, but sometimes it's feel like I'm stealing money. You know what I mean? Just that funny. It's just that cool to come to work. I've
I
been on
love that.
projects where I'm just like, maybe I'm sick today. I don't know. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's work to go to work. You know what I mean? But here it's just fun.
That's great to hear, man. Well, congratulations. Enjoy
I
it.
appreciate it. Thank you,
Thanks for
man.
taking so much time. And yeah, look forward to what comes for the rest of the season. So,
Yeah, stand by, man. Get your popcorn ready.
all right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, man.
Later.
Bye-bye.